Have you ever fallen so hard for someone that it felt like the entire world shifted beneath your feet? Like suddenly, everything you thought you knew stopped mattering? That's exactly how it started for me. My name's Aiden. I was 19 then, awkward, fumbling through life, a bit of a nobody on campus. Clothes didn't quite fit right, confidence was barely a flicker, and I was still figuring out who I wanted to be. But that summer, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to stay invisible anymore. I hit the gym, started caring about how I looked, tried to learn how to hold a conversation without tripping over my words. And then I met Lila. I remember the exact moment she walked into the club meeting the first time our paths crossed. She had this effortless kind of beauty, the sort that doesn't need a spotlight but somehow commands one anyway. Bright eyes that seemed to see everything, a smile that could disarm the toughest cynic. It wasn't just her looks, it was her energy, the way the air seemed to change when she was near. I was instantly hooked. But there was a catch. Lila had a boyfriend. I knew this because everyone said so, and honestly, I wasn't the type to go after someone already taken. So I kept my distance, burying the feelings deep where they couldn't get me in trouble. Still, fate has a twisted sense of humor. We started talking, initially just club stuff, sharing ideas, laughing at dumb jokes. Slowly, those casual conversations stretched longer. Soon, we were staying after meetings just to talk. I found myself wanting to be around her, to hear her laugh, to know what made her tick. The more I got to know her, the more impossible it felt to stay away. She told me about her relationship, the fights, the silence between them, the growing space neither seemed able to close. I listened. I wanted to help, to be the one who fixed what was broken. Then came that night. The party was loud, the kind where the music drowns out your thoughts and the air is thick with a mix of excitement and something darker underneath. I was tipsy, maybe a little more than that, when Lila caught me off guard. "Do you like me?" she asked, her voice barely above the music, but somehow clear enough to stop my heart. I froze. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, I nodded. "Yeah, I do." She smiled that smile that made everything else disappear and pulled me closer. That was the first time we hooked up. It was electric, wild, the kind of moment you replay in your head over and over. For a while, I thought it was a secret world just for us. A place where I was king and she was queen. But reality is never that simple. Her boyfriend was still in the picture, though fraying at the edges. She gave him chance after chance, even as we kept slipping into each other's lives. I was angry, confused, but I told myself to be patient. She'd break up with him. She'd see me the way I saw her. When she finally ended it, she told me she liked me but wasn't ready for a relationship. That was a blow I wasn't prepared for. I told myself it was temporary, that with time, she'd come around. But then, the nights started changing. At a party, I asked if she wanted to leave early with me. She looked at me and said, "No, I'm busy tonight." Her eyes didn't waver as she walked away and I watched her go home with another guy. I couldn't believe it. The girl I thought belonged to me had chosen someone else that night. 2 days later, we sat in the library, side by side. I glanced at her phone and saw messages I'd never imagined. "Had a shower yet? Is your place free?" My chest tightened. She left abruptly, telling me she had a commitment. Later, I found out she'd hooked up with that guy. I was crushed. I punched the boxing bag with bare knuckles later that night until my hands bled. I hated myself for letting her have this power over me. And yet, when she called me over that same night, I went. The next day, I planned to end things for good. I went to her place to get my stuff, but she was a mess. Crying, bandages on her wrists. She told me about her weed addiction, her spiraling mental health, her self-harm. I bandaged her arms and took her to the hospital. While we waited, I noticed fresh hickeys on her neck. I thought maybe it was from her addiction or self-harm. But then she confessed she'd called her ex and hooked up again after I left. I should have walked away then. But I stayed. She promised me exclusivity, begged me to be there for her. She said she was scared she'd hurt herself without me. So I gave everything I had. Hospital visits. Cancelled plans. Dropped grades. Vanished social life. I became her rock and her jailer. After a month, she told me she needed space to heal alone. She said she felt guilty for not giving back enough and wanted to try again in a few months. I begged her to promise she'd stay clean, stop hooking up with others. She agreed. We became friends. I nearly lost my mind. At a party, I had a panic attack and called her for help. She didn't answer. The next day, she told me she'd gotten high and hooked up with a Tinder guy while I was calling. I wanted to hate her. But then she told me she was diagnosed with mental illnesses and begged for another chance. She came back, promising transparency. For 4 days, she cooked breakfast, showered me with affection, and slowly won me back. This time, things seemed different. She was loving. Attentive. The perfect girlfriend. To the world, we were the ideal couple. I was proud of how far I'd come, better style, better body, better confidence. But inside, scars ran deep. Flashbacks. Panic attacks. That voice in my head saying I wasn't enough. Still, I held on. Then came the summer I left to study abroad. She was nervous about the distance, but I thought that was normal. While I was away, she grew distant. Short texts. Fewer calls. No warmth. Meanwhile, a girl showed interest in me. I didn't stop her. One day, I posted a shirtless pic. The girl sent me a message, "Open this when you're alone." I did. Almost immediately, my girlfriend called. She broke up with me. Not because she found out, but because of the long distance. Years of sacrifice, love, pain erased in a single phone call. I'd held her while she cried, dropped everything for her, believed in her again and again. And she left. Our friends sided with me. She lost everyone. I never told anyone about the girl abroad. Looking back, I was naive. I thought love could fix everything. It can't. If there's one lesson I want you to take from my story, it's this: don't take them back unless you're sure you can carry the weight of their past without breaking yourself. Because if you can't, it will destroy you. I remember sitting in my empty apartment the night she ended things. The silence was deafening. Every corner held memories of us. Her laugh echoing from the kitchen, the way she'd curl up on the couch after a long day, the little notes she left on my desk. All gone. Just like that. It wasn't just a breakup. It was an earthquake ripping through my world, leaving debris of heartbreak, regret, and confusion in its wake. How could she do this? After everything? The hospital visits, the late night talks, the promises? I kept replaying every moment, every word, trying to find where it went wrong. Was I not enough? Did she never love me? Or was I just a chapter in a story I didn't understand? I was lost. Days blurred together. I barely ate, barely slept. The faces of friends faded as I sank deeper into this abyss. The university halls became a maze of ghosts and reminders. People who once greeted me warmly now avoided my eyes. I was the boy who loved too much and got burned. But love is stubborn. Despite the pain, I couldn't just erase her from my life. We shared a mutual friend group. She was still around, a shadow lurking in every conversation, every event. The group knew our history well, part of it. They saw me as the good guy, the one who'd cared more, given more, and gotten less in return. They pitied me and resented her. Her social circle evaporated. Friends distanced themselves, judging her for her choices. I never told them about the girl abroad or the late night calls she ignored. That was my secret burden. Then came the nights where panic attacks gripped me like a vice. I'd wake up gasping for air, heart pounding as if it wanted to escape my chest. The memories of her texting other guys, her laughter with strangers, the smell of perfume that wasn't mine, they haunted me. I tried to fight it, drowning myself in work and the gym, but the ghosts were relentless. They waited in quiet moments, snapping at the edges of my sanity. One evening, after a particularly brutal day, I found myself scrolling through old messages. Our conversations, photos, promises. I stumbled upon a text I'd missed before, a message from her during my study abroad, sent just hours before she broke up with me. It read, "I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I'm scared." Fear. That word echoed in my mind. Was she as lost as I was? Did she regret the choices she made? Or was this just another lie I told myself to survive? I couldn't stop reading, couldn't stop wondering. Months passed. I threw myself into my studies, desperate to escape the mess of emotions. I rebuilt my life piece by piece, brick by brick. The gym became my sanctuary. Sweat and pain were tangible, unlike the ghostly wounds in my heart. Friends slowly returned, but the cracks in me remained. Then, unexpectedly, she reached out. A simple message: "Can we talk?" My heart raced. Part of me screamed to ignore it, to protect what little peace I had. But the other part, stubborn, hopeful, said yes. We met at a quiet CAF, the same place where we'd shared countless conversations. She looked different, tired, fragile, yet determined. She apologized, not just words, but a raw confession of her struggles. The mental illness, the addiction, the pain she'd buried beneath layers of chaos. She told me she was getting help, trying to heal, wanting to find herself again. I listened, the weight of years pressing on us both. We talked for hours, and for a moment, it felt like old times. The connection, the spark. But reality was harsher now. I realized healing wasn't a straight line. It was messy, painful, unpredictable. I had to decide, could I open my heart again? Or was I setting myself up for another fall? The answer wasn't clear. We tried. We stumbled. We fought. But the scars ran deep. Trust, once shattered, is 1,000 tiny pieces. Every doubt, every fear, lingered between us. One night, she broke down again. Confessing fears, tears, and the pull of old habits. I held her, feeling the fragile thread between love and loss. It was beautiful and tragic. That chapter closed with no promises, no guarantees. Just two souls trying to survive the wreckage of a love that once was. After that last conversation, the silence between us wasn't empty, it was full of everything we couldn't say. It was heavy, thick with the weight of all the things left unsaid, the mistakes we'd made, and the futures we'd lost. I tried to convince myself to move on. To focus on me. But every night, when the world got quiet, memories of her came crashing back like tidal waves, her laugh, her touch, the way she used to call me her safe place. I'd lie awake, replaying moments, trying to untangle the mess in my head. I realized that sometimes, the hardest part of loving someone isn't the love itself, it's the heartbreak that follows when that love isn't enough. The days that followed were a blur of effort and failure. I threw myself into routines, gym sessions until exhaustion, endless coding projects, and books on mental health and healing. I wanted to understand her struggles, to forgive her, but also to understand myself. One evening, I found an old playlist we had made together. Each song carried memories, some sweet, some bitter. I put on headphones and let the music drown out the noise inside my head. As the melodies washed over me, I allowed myself to cry. For the love I lost, for the pain I carried, and for the hope that maybe, someday, I'd find peace. Months later, I met someone new. Her name was Maya. Different from Lila in every way, yet somehow just as captivating. She wasn't perfect, and neither was I. But with her, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: ease. We laughed without trying, talked about dreams without fear, and shared moments that felt like fresh air. I was scared, though. Scared that my past would follow me, that the scars from before would bleed into this new chance at happiness. One night, after a late dinner, Maya asked me gently, "What happened with Lila?" For the first time, I told someone everything: the love, the heartbreak, the betrayals, and the hope. I told her about the mental illness, the addiction, and the promises that weren't kept. She listened without judgment. Her eyes held kindness I hadn't seen in a long time. When I finished, she reached out and squeezed my hand. "We all carry scars," she said softly. "But they don't have to define us." That moment became a turning point. I realized that my story wasn't just about heartbreak or betrayal, it was about survival, growth, and learning to love myself again. But healing is never linear. Sometimes, I'd catch myself spiraling, lost in memories, overwhelmed by anxiety. At those times, I learned to reach out to friends, to Maya, to a therapist. It wasn't easy admitting I needed help, but it was necessary. Slowly, I built a life that wasn't tied to pain. A life where I was enough. Where I could love without losing myself. Looking back, I know I made mistakes. I loved too hard, too fast. I gave too much without saving some for myself. But I also learned the hardest lesson of all: sometimes, the people we love aren't ready to love us back. And that's not our fault. So, if you're watching this and feeling broken, lost, or betrayed, know this: your worth isn't defined by someone else's choices. You deserve love that lifts you up, not tears you down. And most importantly, you deserve to love yourself fiercely. It's been over a year since Lila and I parted ways for good. A year of silence, reflection, and hard truths. Sometimes I wonder what could have been if things had gone differently, if I had been stronger, or if she had been ready. But those questions don't bring answers, only ghosts. What I've learned is far more valuable. Love is messy. It's complicated and painful, but it's also a teacher. And sometimes the greatest love story you'll ever live is the one you have with yourself. I used to think that my worth was tied to how much someone else loved me. That if she chose someone else, it meant I wasn't enough. That was a lie I told myself to feel small, to hide from the truth. The truth is, love doesn't have to hurt like that. And your value isn't measured by someone else's decisions. I'm sharing my story because I want you to know you're not alone. You might be sitting there right now, heartbroken, confused, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. You will. It won't be quick or easy, but it will happen. Healing means setting boundaries. It means recognizing when love is no longer healthy. It means walking away even when it hurts because you deserve more. I don't regret loving Lila. I don't regret the moments we shared or the lessons I learned. But I do regret losing myself in a love that wasn't meant for me. So here's my advice to you: don't be afraid to walk away. Don't be afraid to put yourself first. And when you do, remember this: the strongest love you'll ever have is the one you give yourself. If you've been through something like this, or you're struggling right now, I want you to reach out, whether it's to a friend, a family member, or a professional. You don't have to carry the pain alone. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find the strength to love yourself, to heal, and to keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, you're worth it.